Surprise! This is tragic according to Putin, and this is exactly what he says, as he gives us even more hints that he wants to end this war. There was also a very big storm in Crimea over the weekend, and hundreds of miles of Russian defenses along the peninsula are now completely washed away. But more about all of this in just a couple of minutes. What's up, investors? It's the Russian dude. And let's get straight to the point and talk about some ridiculous Russian propaganda. Oh! Whew. So, today we have topic of money. And the Central Bank of Russia looks like they decided to release the new design of a 100 rubles bill, approximately worth a little bit more than $1. And in this new design, they did not include temporarily occupied parts of Ukraine, Zaporozhye, Kherson, or even Crimea. And this is very interesting. And I can only guess why. Could it be that they realized that they will not be able to keep them? Or maybe they do know that this land actually belongs to Ukraine? Or what if Putin is getting ready to trade them for something else? Let me know in the comments, what do you think? And speaking about Putin, it does feel like that he is getting ready for at least some kind of talks. So let's talk about this right now, really quick, and then I'll give you a brief update from the east and then from the south, where hundreds of miles of Russian defenses are simply being washed away. And so yes, approximately a week or so ago, Putin was doing this online speech during a G20 summit. And basically he said that whatever is happening right now is obviously a big tragic. Russia is doing everything possible to avoid it. And that the main goal of this special military operation is to restore justice in Ukraine. The question from me personally here is, before the invasion it was calm and not that much unrest in this country. It only started with the invasion of Russia, so what kind of restoring justice he's talking about? I personally do not know. He then also mentioned that combat activities in every part of the world, including in Ukraine, is a big tragedy, and we all must think together how to end it as soon as possible. And obviously, according to him, Russia never gave up on peace talks with Ukraine. It was Ukrainians who said that they are never gonna talk with Russia ever again. According to Putin, Russia is like all this white, nice and easy, like guys, just please talk with us, we are ready to communicate. It is just this bad Zelensky guy doesn't want to talk with us. That's how I see the statements of Putin. But what is even more interesting, approximately a couple of weeks before this G20 summit, the Minister of Defense of Russia, Sergei Shoigu, was making pretty much similar claims. He was saying that the West is united against Russia and wants to erase it, destroy it from the face of the earth. And then somehow Russians are they got stuck in this Ukrainian conflict. And yeah, I guess, it's kind of that time of the day when we should start about talking, because Russia, just like Putin said, never declined the opportunity to negotiate. Then Shoigu obviously mentioned that only negotiations on realistic terms will be acceptable by Russia, which most likely includes for Ukraine to surrender all of its territories, give the total control to Russia over them. Obviously, these are not realistic terms. In the mind of Shoigu, they are. And then Russia also wants to return to the world scene, to the world arena, and start resuming communication with the rest of the world. And you know what? I did notice some very interesting thing. It is that Putin will never himself say directly, straight to the point, guys, let's sit and talk. He will always use his minions to do it for him, and in the very beginning it was just some small local insignificant authorities who were talking about the necessity to end the war. Then this kind of speech already entered the Russian State Duma to even some highest Russian authorities, such as, for example, the Minister of Foreign Affairs Sergei Lavrov, and then a couple of weeks before, a couple of weeks later, to the Minister of Defense of Russia himself, Sergei Shoigu. Pretty much at this point, almost every single person within the Russian government at least once mentioned the necessity to resume the talks with Ukraine. So maybe, just maybe in the near future, Putin will be like, alright guys, well, if you want to talk with Ukraine, I do not want, but if you want, well, okay, I guess, let's see what they have to say. But just once again, judging by the number of Russian authorities recently speaking about the talks with Ukraine, I think it is possible to make an assumption that maybe some kind of negotiations will be held in the near future. Maybe not the total end of war kind of negotiations, but at least some, at least temporarily, cease of fire. So, let's see. But okay, now as promised, let me give you an extremely quick update from the east of Ukraine, where unfortunately Russians did have some minor success over the weekend, and then we'll switch our attention to the south. But first of all, guys, if you do not mind, if you can help me out a lot, all you need to do for this is to simply like this video and subscribe to my channel. It helps my videos, it helps my work, and I thank you for this so much. You can also follow me on Instagram to see how I live outside of YouTube, the link is down below. And so yes, right before we go to the east, let's make a quick stop in Chelyabinsk, where recently a local tractor, so-called factory, which obviously was producing some military-related equipment, spontaneously got caught on fire. According to the local authorities, the reason for this was some kind of electrical problems, but the local residents did hear some loud noises right before a lot of fire started to come out. So once again, I will leave it up to you who you want to believe. And then our next stop brings us to Smolensk, where recently a local airplane factory also got caught on fire. But this time Russians did acknowledge that it was at least two, most likely Ukrainian drones. And then the Defense Intelligence of Ukraine also confirmed that it was their raid. And the Russians said that they intercepted both of them. But for some reason we do have a video like this, which shows that this factory is on pretty significant fire. So once again, Russians were able to eliminate the threat, but the threat still was pretty substantial. Next, we refer to the report by the Institute for the Study of War, which claims that Russians continued their offensive along Kupiansk-Svatove-Crimea front line and reportedly even advanced in some areas, which is not yet confirmed by this map. And then, interestingly enough, we have this picture from Kupiansk front line, where as you can see Ukrainians are already actively using Abrams tank. Going a little bit down to Liman front line, we can see that Ukrainian snipers are actively working against the Russian positions during the night. And in this video, we are able to see several successful eliminations. As always, this fully uncensored video can be found on my Patreon, and by the way, guys, recently we donated $2,300 more to Ukraine, and as thank you so much to you, my dear patrons, and to you guys who are watching my videos. I also want to make a statement, let's call it like this, that no matter what you do in life, there will always be people who will complain about everything. I thought that we are here doing the right thing, and we are doing the right thing, we do help Ukraine all together, and it is just unbelievable that somebody can complain about this. Obviously, unless it is a pro-Russian person. But there were, unfortunately, some complainers. People were saying that, come on bro, you must be making millions, and you only donated $2,000 to Ukraine? That's pathetic. That's literally the comments I received in my direct messages, under my Instagram post, under my YouTube community post. So pretty much yes, it is not going to affect how we are operating moving forward. We will continue giving money to Ukraine, both you and me. We're gonna do it all together. And if you want to participate in one of such future donations, once again, one of the best ways to do it is by joining my Patreon. You receive in return access to the fully uncensored episodes of The Russian Dude and also extra footage. And then in the future, I will donate some of these proceeds to Ukraine. So once again, Patreons, thank you so much. And so yes, now let's get back to the east of Ukraine. And first of all, unfortunately, the strong winter came a little bit earlier this time, and as you can see from this video, this is the current condition that Ukrainians are experiencing right now. Obviously, it is extremely complicated or practically impossible to do combat operations. As you go even more down to the probably most significant fighting area in the east, Avdiivka, we can see a video of Ukrainians which continue to use US infantry fighting vehicle called Bradley, which suffers a direct hit from the Russian attack, from the Russian missile, and it is pretty much completely untouched. It is still able to drive on its own, and probably it suffered just several scratches. Nothing significant happened so far. But unfortunately, speaking about Avdiivka, according to the very same report by the Institute for the Study of War, Russians were able to achieve some kind of progress over the last couple of days. Specifically, they were able to capture a small land around industrial zone to the south of this city. And then as we take a look at this map, which shows us the changes in territorial control, they show that Russians advanced a little bit to the south of Kruta Balka and captured some land, and then going to the north you will be able to see that Russians were able also to advance a little bit to the northeast of Krasnohorivka. So unfortunately, as you can see, Russians continue their offensive operations around the city, and they did have some minor success over the weekend. And so yes, now let's quickly finalize everything in the south of Ukraine, and then we'll talk about hundreds of miles of Russian defenses in Crimea being literally washed away. And first of all, let's make a quick stop in Kozachi Lagery, where Ukrainians reportedly were able to destroy an assault group of Russians along with their military vehicle. In addition to that, Ukrainians reportedly continue to defend their existing footholds and bridgeheads over the Dnipro River, not allowing Russians to take them back. And besides that, some combat activities to the south of Krinky was reported, which was mostly successful by Ukrainian side. Besides that, Ukrainians were also able to destroy several assault group of Russians along with their military vehicles to the south of Rabotini, and then as we go closer to Verbove, also to the south of this settlement, even more concentration of Russian infantry has been eliminated by Ukrainians. In addition to that, a self-propelled artillery system of Russians called Akatsiya has been completely obliterated by Ukrainians along the southern front lines in the last couple of days. And then we have even a video of the consequence of these attacks. Pretty much it is beyond repair. I don't think it can be used ever again, to say the least. But pretty much yes, the most significant, which is not directly related to either Ukrainians or Russians event which happened over the weekend, is that there was a big storm in the Black Sea which severely affected Crimean Peninsula. At some point, it has been reported that the winds were reaching the speed up to 150 km per hour, which is approximately 90 to 95 miles per hour. And as you can see from this video, the biggest impact was in the western part of the peninsula, specifically around Yevpatoria area, where waves were reaching even up to 10 meters high. But don't worry, the Crimean bridge, which seemingly looks kinda far away from whatever is happening, it was also potentially affected in some way, because in Kerch location, the waves reportedly were up to 7 meters high. Even some Russian small patrol ships, such as for example this one called Raptor, which were not on time to leave the Black Sea area, they were destroyed by the nature. Even Poseidon himself is on the side of Ukrainians. And I'm not talking about Poseidon missile. But what is even more important, according to the Ukrainian intelligence, the entire coastline around Yevpatoria, where there was a lot of Russian fortification trenches and just other defense structures, all the way from the north and then to the south of Yevpatoria, they have been completely washed away by this storm. Pretty much hundreds of miles of Russian fortifications are no longer existent in the west part of Crimea. And if you remember, in the past Ukrainians were landing on the Crimean Peninsula, and guess what? Exactly the western part of Crimea is where Ukrainians were targeting for their landing operations. And now, since there are no more defenses as soon as the storm passes, Ukrainians will have a very nice window of opportunity. But wait, there is more. The storm was so significant that even the Russian rail tracks located in Sochi, and yes, they did use this railroad to bring reinforcements and supplies all the way through Crimean Peninsula and then to Kherson and Zaporozhye regions, well, this part of the railroad has been destroyed by the storm as well, as you can see from this video. And I mean, it is pretty obvious that trains are not like cars, they cannot just simply use another road. As long as these rail tracks are destroyed, it means that supplies of Russians from Sochi are fully disrupted. Not partially, not a little bit, they are fully unavailable in the near future. And well, as you can see, sometimes war can take such pretty unexpected turns. And the question is, who will be the one to take advantage of this situation? Once again, Ukrainians do have a pretty good window of opportunity if they want to do some reconnaissance or maybe even some diversion activities in the western part of Crimea, because as of right now the defenses are non-existent, to say the least. So let's see if Ukrainians will take this opportunity or not. And if you do not want to miss what potentially can happen in the near future, just as always, subscribe to my channel. It helps a lot, so it only takes one click. Thank you so much my Patreons for your support, and see you tomorrow.